I like
Jam.
that. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're gonna play it right now. All right. Go to my boom. All right. Now go accept cookies. Play this song. As soon as it loads. There we go. Is it gonna do it? Might have to play it on my desktop here. I can do that.
Oh, you're trying to do it through an MP3 player?
I was just gonna do it on my phone, but it's not pulling up. So
Oh,
we'll pick it up right here. Okay, this was Everstream. Boom. And you'll know this one. All right, ready? Here we go.
I'm ready.
And this next song is called I Want
You to want me. Love Cheap Trick. Cheap Trick. Want you to want me. I need you. You stay me. And I keep getting cut on my side.
Almost there. All right, we'll fade it out.
You need me. That is a good song. Cheap Trick, I'm thinking they're not a one-hit wonder, but I honestly can't think of any other songs.
I can't either because that song is so embedded in my brain right now. So anyways, today we are talking about lead generation, and it's all about wanting them to want you, right?
Yes.
So let's start with last week. We talked about how people know, is my business going to provide the lifestyle that I want? And then the next step in Fix This Next is we got
there you go. Nice.
prospect attraction, right? We got prospect attraction. We want people to want us. So where do you see people going wrong? First of all, like what do you see business owners doing where they're like, I just don't get it. The phone's not ringing. I got no sales coming in. Where are people getting it wrong?
The lead indicator of someone getting it wrong is, and Isaac, you can ask any business owner this, go, what's your source of leads? And I'm like, word of mouth. People refer me all the time. I can tell you that business is in trouble because that is at the whim of our customers by happenstance promoting us. Meaning our customer has to say to someone else, oh, you got to use Isaac, you got to use Mike. But it is by random chance and the customer needs to be motivated. We can't throttle it. So the number one mistake where people go wrong is thinking word of mouth referrals, customer referrals is a good thing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. Like the fact that it's happening, clearly your reputation precedes you, but it's not controllable. It is not marketing. It is simply reputation expansion. Marketing is a deliberate process. And I was actually working on it this morning. I was writing this morning, and I was talking about this exact subject. The area we go wrong in marketing is then we clone our competition. We say, oh, everyone's doing Facebook ads, so clearly Facebook ads. Or, I saw these like 50 courses about email marketing. I need to do email marketing. Now, I'm not saying those are bad platforms, but as something becomes more saturated, it becomes more ineffective. So just a little behavioral or biological explanation. At the base of our brainstem right here is a thing called the reticular formation. It's a net like that physically, and so literally, but also figuratively, because its primary responsibility is to ignore. Our core function of the base of our brain is to ignore as much as possible. Because if we contemplate everything, I got a little, this, believe it or not, is a key screw or something in front of me. I could spend hours investigating this. Like, oh, I wonder how they machine that. And why is it black? Is that a fiber or they put on of some sort, or do they spray it, paint it? And I could just go on and on and on about this. But my mind actually is designed to ignore it. It may spot it, but says insignificant, irrelevant. Instead, our reticular formation, this net, is designed to do a few things. If there's a known opportunity pursue it. Like if someone puts a plate of food in front of you and you're hungry, the reticular formation says, okay, let's push out into our prefrontal cortex and let's go examine what's going on here. Let's try that out. Also, it is designed when something unexpected presents itself, it can't be qualified, that must go to the brain because it could be a threat. In fact, our brain is then optimized to consider threats first. So you and I are talking in the yard, all of a sudden something squiggles in front of us. The reticular formation will say, that's approved, send it to this thing called the amygdala. That is the threat response, and our body will just jerk back without even knowing what it is. It then goes to another part of our brain called the prefrontal cortex that then analyzes and says, oh, that's not a snake. That's someone turned on the hose and it's jumping around. The goal of marketing is to get past the reticular formation. Therefore, when you do what everyone else does, you're likely caught in the net because the brain is designed to ignore. Our reticular formation very quickly says, oh, more email marketing. The first time you got email marketing, that was interesting. It was unexpected. What is this? But the 500th email is like, oh, another cheesy capture with curiosity subject line, delete, delete, delete. And it becomes less and less effective. So to really draw prospect attraction, the fundamental part of Fix This Next is you must do marketing that's different. Pursue your prospects with a different message, a different approach, and the likelihood of catching their attention skyrockets.
Well, there's an inoculation effect that happens, right? So
yeah,
if things are only new for so long, and then
that's right.
you ever like walk past something in your house and you're like, I haven't noticed that picture was there for 18 months. For some reason I suddenly saw it. Or someone comes in and they mention something like, I don't even pay attention to that thing that I see, but I don't recognize every single day because we're inoculated to those things. And so same thing with marketing is how do you be first, best, or completely different where you stand out? And I call it being, being singular. Like how do you set yourself apart? It's not just, oh, that's one of those whatevers, but there's those whatevers and Mike, there's those whatevers in your company.
I was walking a security company through prospect attraction. This is just 2 weeks ago. And I said, how are you marketing now? And they're struggling marketing. I said, well, word of mouth, right? I'm like, okay, so you're not marketing, but what else? They go, oh, we run these ads on Facebook. And like, how's that serving you? And they're like, well, we don't know. So they're not even measuring. That's another problem. And then we went through this process of being different or the best, the most unique, unexpected. And we said, do you know your top 25 prospects, like who they'd be? And they even struggled with that, which is another problem. You got to know who you're targeting. You need the goal. But we looked at their historical best customers and said, let's just look at their 25 competitors. They're probably somewhat like them. There's our 25 prospects. And what we devised, the curiosity that they execute on, and I'll tell you there's another problem with execution. What we devised is real simple. We send a mailer, a single piece mailer, but in a big envelope that says to the owner, secret message outside your window on it, right? So real interesting, comes in it. And in it, it's actually a box. In it comes a pair of binoculars. And there's a message in there saying, we put a message for you outside your window. Now, what the security company knows is they know the structure of all these different buildings. They serve them all. They put a road or one of those double stake signs in the yard of this corporation with it facing the CEO's office. So the CEO can now go with binoculars and says, we'd be honored to be considered for your security. Really remarkable. Really different and really cost effective. I mean, you can get cheapo binoculars and do that. And even if you did expensive ones, they can likely return, whatever. It's a cool gift. The other challenge, once you can come up with remarkable, there's something that is remarkably consistent with businesses that try to do different. They actually simply stop at the try. There is a fear to do different. And this also ties into our brain wiring, is the second you and I do something different from what our accepted community does, we will stand out, which means we're at risk of being kicked out of the community. Like I could put my hand here and you could smack it with a hammer and that would be excruciatingly painful, but there's something even more painful, the rejection of the people you belong to, never accepting you again. It's not a physical pain, but it is an emotional pain that's so significant. Most of us don't do different. It quells up. It's like, oh, what would happen? What if, all these what ifs. I hope that security company is doing it. I wonder if they are, because thinking different's easy. Doing different is the hard part. But if you don't do, you'll never grab the opportunity. So to overcome that, we have to realize, yes, we may be rejected by the tribe. We may do something that's so different than everyone else that the competitors think we're uncool, but the new community will accept us. And this shirt is homage to that exact principle. This is the Savannah Banana shirt the baseball team, they market. I was actually just interviewing the owner yet again, Jesse Cole. We should get him on the show once.
Great.
They market so radically different. Fast forward to this COVID crisis, they are one of maybe 5 teams that there and I'm aware of in majors, minors, or all-stars to have attendance. They're having still 1,500 people, COVID compliant, safety, attend. Even the major leagues have 0 attendance. They have cardboard cutouts. They did that by being remarkable marketing, different marketing.
And it's getting harder and harder to do that because advertising is so in your face, and it's getting more and more savvy now. And people that are coming up are more inoculated to marketing, more inoculated to traditional sales techniques. They've seen it all. They're like, we don't fall for the same stuff as our parents did, or even people 5-10 years ago. And so it's becoming harder and harder to differentiate yourself in a way that makes people go, huh, and want to engage and lean in. By the way, speaking of Jesse Cole, we'd love to have him on the show. And if you're watching this live or the recording and there's somebody you'd really like to see on the show, please let us know. We'll reach out to them. No political candidates, please. They're very busy right now. And, I can't think of what I'd like to have on the show at this point anyways, but, but let's go ahead and, put anybody that you think would be a great guest on the show. We want to have some time with Mike where he can expound on the ideas in the book. We also want to have some outside thoughts on principles from the book as well, because that's going to curate a really interesting conversation. So we left off with being different, and we want to have, well, there's 2 types of people too. And this is something that I was just kind of exposed to recently was there's the type of people who just want to be part of the crowd. You were talking about the acceptance, of I just want to be accepted by my peers. That's a big group of people. There's also, though, the unicorns who want anything but to be part of the status quo.
Oh, that's true.
2 types. One is I just want to be part of that group and feel accepted. And there's another one that rejects that completely and says, I just don't want to be normal like all these guys. I want to be exceptional. And so I think more and more businesses, and especially businesses that are going to resonate with what you have to say, that are going to be leaders in the industry that they choose going forward, are those unicorns that say, I reject the status quo because that's played out. I could play the Facebook ads game using the same ads as everybody else, the same strategies as everybody else, and try to pick up little crumbs, out of the whole pie. Or I could have more of a blue ocean strategy instead of the red ocean strategy and do completely different and say, what is nobody doing? Because I want all of that small group that's going to be attracted to that instead of crumbs from this group that everybody's trying to, take a piece of.
And I would argue not to be different for different sake. So there's some people that just say, I reject everything all the time. I'm going to be constantly on the bleeding edge. But when we leave one tribe behind, a new one will accept us. The classic example is my old college roommate. His name was Phil Nunnally. We went to Virginia Tech together, and he discovered a band before anyone knew about it. It was called Nirvana. And he came to me one day. This is back in the late 80s, early 90s. He goes, there's this amazing band out there. They played this edgy music. Yeah, listen to it. And it was like, I listened to it. I'm like, oh my God, this stuff is garbage. He's like, they're the best. Then they had a song called Teen Spirit that broke. And I'm like, oh my God, they're insanely good. And the whole university, the whole world went crazy over Nirvana. And Phil Nunnally said, they sold out. They suck now. And he went in search of his new band. There's certain businesses and owners that always want to be on the bleeding edge. So even though they may enter into a new opportunity, he was the first to discover Nirvana. He abandoned it before or too soon, in a commercial sense, at least. Yeah. With our businesses, you can be bleeding edge and shirk the standard norm, but a new community will revel in that. They'll be like, thank God you've done it. We love you now. You have to be ready to love them back to find that new community. So it's interesting. We have to be different to the point where we attract, but then we need to continue to cater to them in that new, different way, which over time will become standard for them and so forth. That's just how it works.
You said, don't be different just to be different. I think that, Darius, we had Darius on the show a couple of weeks ago, and he talks about core values. Yeah. And it's not about rejecting the status quo and just being different to be different. It's about peeling away the layers of inauthenticity, maybe.
Yeah.
Just doing stuff because everyone else is doing them, and finding your identity, your brand identity, your company identity, your own identity, And if you really, I think, lean into that and become unique in a way that's authentic for you, that's where that magic happens.
Some people come to me as authors like, hey, I really like your website, Mike, MikeMotorbike.com. Go there, check it out. And I'm like, oh, thanks for the kind words. And I said, I feel a little awkward, but do you mind if I kind of copy that or rip it off? I said, if it's authentically you, make it a representation of you. You can definitely R&D, rip off and duplicate. Now, don't steal my intellectual property. I will protect myself, of course, but if it's authentically you, do it. And I've even turned people into my web developer who has the code. And these people then water down and say, but my community won't like that. Like you use swear words on your website and I got to remove that. And you actually have one thing to click on there if people hate you. And I don't want anyone to hate me. So, and they start watering it down and the difference becomes this bland thing. It's like throwing makeup on a dead body. It's like, something just isn't right here. And that's what happens. I think to Darius's, when we were talking about the core values, to really lean into our authentic self. You mentioned the word best. I call it the est strategy, as in the superlative. There's hundreds, probably thousands of words that end in est. Fastest, slowest, weirdest, coolest, strongest, smartest. Pick any of those and any others. Have the most professional list website, or the weirdest, or the funniest, or the coolest, or the edgiest, or the blankest, or the most complexest. But if you go to the edge, that's where you start to differentiate, and that's where tribes start to accumulate. I would also argue in prospect attraction, all of your marketing needs to be consistent with it. To have one little like really edgy ad and it doesn't connect to your website is a fatal mistake. Look at Dollar Shave Club that broke, I don't know, 5 or 10 years ago. They did it on one ad that went back to one website that was a very consistent brand. It was funny, it was edgy, it spit in the face of big corporations, which ironically they became a big corporation selling for $1 billion. But that's the goal. They did something really different. First time the community saw it, it then spoke to a website that was consistent with it. It was a very fluid prospect attraction. That's the type of stuff we need to do. Is when you do different, have it fluid throughout.
And it ties into other pieces of the book too. So make sure you guys read the whole book. This is not the only good chapter.
It's one element.
It all goes together. You don't want to just have, again, one piece of the puzzle, like, yes, I'm getting it right. And it doesn't fit with everything else. There's no congruence there.
Yeah, exactly. This is like building, Fix This Next is like building a actual building, a 5-level structure. And one of the lessons is you can't build a 5th floor in midair and thin air because that'll collapse down and crash on it. But you also don't just keep on building the foundation bigger and bigger. You got to build up. At a certain point, actually, the foundation can be so big, it envelops the level above. It doesn't match up. Prospect attraction is part of the base level of sales. We have to have what was lifestyle congruence we talked about. We have to attract prospects, convert them to clients, deliver on our promises, collect on promises. All that stuff is the foundation. If you're doing that adequately, and that's the key buzzword, if you're doing it adequately to build that second floor, you better get started on the second floor, profit and so forth. And if that's adequate, you get on the order level. But at a certain point, you can't build higher without going back to the base. It's kind of like a volcano erupting. You build that mountain and then it needs to flow out again. That lava's got to build the base and it flows out again. And the mountain can get bigger and bigger. So the question is, where are you now? Now we're just digging deep into prospect attraction. That may not be your need. The danger we're having here is people, I bet you, Isaac, are saying, oh, God, I never thought about that. I didn't think about, the est strategy or something like that. I got to hop on that. And they actually deprioritize the vital need of their business. So these are insights into what you could do. I really encourage everyone to go to fixthisnext.com. It's free. It's a 5-minute analysis and the system will pinpoint, this is the next thing you need to work on. If you do that now, you'll find your need is perhaps prospect attraction, or maybe it's a profit system, or maybe it's an efficiency need, or maybe it's delivering on your promises. It will tell you, and that's where you concentrate your energy.
Yep. So fixthisnext.com, and the evaluation, if you just want to go straight there, is eval, not evil, eval.
That's funny.
.fixthisnext.com.
Yep.
Because again, to go back to that, there are things that are most obvious, which are not going to kill your business, right? They're just the things right in front of your face. But if you don't work on the things that are going to kill your business, the thing in front of your face isn't going to matter. So we want to find out what that vital need is. And for a lot of people, it is this lead generation, prospect attraction thing. So would you say more people are prone to getting way too many lead generation strategies. Like they're like lead generation strategy hoarders.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
57 different lead generation strategies, and I've got a bunch of stuff coming in, but they don't track it. They don't know what's working.
Yeah,
they don't.
yeah,
I
would say people don't have too many lead generation strategies as a general rule of thumb. They have too few measurements to know what's working. So they do a couple here and they say, oh, that wasn't working. They do a couple there. And they're like, oh, let's go back to that one we did a year ago. I thought that was good. Yeah, it was definitely good. Let's do that again. Without any empirical data, we're in real trouble. And actually, I talk about this throughout Fix This Next, is one of the fatal flaws, probably the fatal flaw of entrepreneurship, is this belief that we can trust our gut. We are wired into our biological survival. I know when I'm hungry or thirsty. I'm not biologically wired into my business. I can't tell when my business is hungry or thirsty. I say I can. I'm like, oh, we need to do this. It's a beacon. It's maybe an indicator of what to investigate, but you need to back it with empirical data. We, for our biological bodies, have inputs of sight, hearing. Our business has inputs, which is the accounting and the sales, but we need to measure those inputs. So any lead generation you do, is it keyed? Meaning, is there some kind of measurement? Here's a real simple example. If I did that mailer, that security company mailer with the binoculars, I would add to that a form of communication. It's a call to action. I call it a directive, a very specific directive. It says, see that sign on the sign. It says, call me on my cell number at such and such, or call me at the office at this number, extension 123. Well, that 123 is keyed specifically to that campaign, meaning I may do a different campaign where I run a Facebook ad that says call our office extension 456. Any of the 456 calls, I know where it came from without having to ask. And the 123 calls, I know where they came from without having to ask. That's a method of keying. Now, if I have them call my cell phone, for example, the first thing I should say is, hey, how'd you get my cell? Or did you get my cell because you saw my sign in your yard? I have to go back to what the source is. The key with that is if you use a common number, is not to do all advertising simultaneously. That's standard key, because then you will get confused. So then you do what's called sequential timed keying, where you use like my cell number just for this one campaign. Then there's a break for 2 months, and now you can use my cell number for a different campaign.
Yeah.
Measure.
A lot of people too, they get excited about just leads in general, but they haven't identified their client avatar or who they're specifically wanting to work with or would want to work with them too. And they become like these leads are like they're like crack, so they'll just get as many leads as possible, and they're celebrating the lead. What a lot of people don't realize is that leads that don't convert are a liability, because they're going to take up, in a lot of cases, money, or they're going to take up the time of somebody to try to nurture the lead or convert the lead, or they're going to take space in a conversation where you could have been talking to somebody who was an ideal prospect. And so part of this is too understanding like what type of leads do you want to get, and then how do you create an authentic lead magnet for those people, so that the right people are coming to you to have the right conversations with, and that makes a huge difference.
Got to start with the end in mind. Yeah, I want more leads. That's probably the most common words I say and have said around prospect flow. I want more leads. Okay, here's 10 people. These are 10 friends of mine from my local school. You can talk to them, but they're kids. They're just they're leads. You want people introduced to you. Oh no, I want certain types of leads. Oh, what are those leads? So we need to get really specific on the lead generation. And it's interesting, or the lead that we want, as you narrow down the prospect pool and give it more description, you give it more specific goals and settings, it's a smaller pool, which means we can do more targeted marketing. We can speak exactly to their need. If I was targeting one lead only, say I want to do business with, Mountain Lakes Motors. It's a small motor repair shop down the street. If I want to target them, I bet you, even with the worst business offering in the planet, I do computer services, I suck at, I could probably still get a project with them by emailing them, by knowing the business owner's name, by sending them something of significance, by showing up and saying, hey, I'm your local computer guy. I'd love the opportunity to be of service to you if you need me. By being in front of them. At a certain point, they'll convert over. And maybe my service sucks and they don't hire me again. But marketing that specifically can even win business for the suckiest businesses of the world. And the thing is, the folks listening to this, clearly you don't suck. You're here, you're trying to learn. Clearly you got an edge over most of your competition. Therefore, since you don't suck, if you market that specifically, that directly, you're going to get clients for life. So narrow down the prospect pool, be very specific about who they are, and you'll win over customers potentially for life.
And that's a powerful way to get past the reticular activator, right? Is the specificity and saying, if like with me, if you're a retired military guy who had firefighting experience and just like, wait a minute, I all of a sudden I heard a couple of things, but now I started to tune in because it sounds like they're talking to me. So right. Things like using their name, or you can get really narrow and still have, you can get down to 1% of people that are your target market in that community. But if you have 100 times the conversion on those people, that's better than having everyone, because you don't have to spend all the wasted time and resources on the other 99%. That's what a lot of people don't understand, is more is not always better when it comes to leads.
No, for sure. And it's interesting. You hit on part of the reticular formation is a reticular activation system. That's part of the formation. That is actually the small part that looks for parts or elements of significance. The classic example, the Anthony Robbins type example, is like you buy a new car and all of a sudden everyone has that car. Obviously it's always been there, but the reticular formation puts significance on it. There's something more significant than that car. It's your own name. Your name is the most significant part of the reticular formation. I'm sorry, the reticular activation system, because we hear it constantly. It was given to us. So there's great significance in it. Therefore, when we market to a person and we use their name, not only can that get past the reticular formation, the blocking system, it can trigger into the reticular activation system, which says, oh, they're talking about me, my own name. I'm interested. Oh my gosh, this is amazing. So you can play those elements for sure in your marketing.
If you guys are watching and you have questions about this, post them in the comments. Even if this is you're watching a replay, post them in the comments. We'll check that. Janelle's in there live right now moderating, and she'll send anything to us. So to break it down, because we're kind of nearing the end of our show. So to break it down, if people are interested in getting better at this, and you go to eval.fixthisnext.com, you take it and you find out that you need more prospects. If that's your vital need, what's the process?
Yeah. So, well, the first thing is, when you do this, you may want to validate your findings with a Fix This Next advisor. These are professionals that are certified in the process. And the reason you may want to do it, and we offer a free consultation, so it is a good reason to do this, is they don't have the bias. They get past what's called the confirmation bias. When we believe something to be true, we'll seek it out to be true in everything we do, even if it's not. So they will do an analytic of your data itself to validate your finding. It may point in a different direction or the same direction. Then you go through the process of starting with the end in mind. They'll help you target exactly who you want to be selling to. Then we devise a strategy that is a different marketing approach as opposed to the standard marketing approach to that target market. And we key it, so we make sure that we got measurable results to see if it's working. If it's working, we amplify it. If it's not working, we either fix it or jettison it, and we continue that continuously until the prospect attraction need is fulfilled. Once it's adequately fulfilled, again, there's that word adequate, we can then level up to other vital needs.
And for goodness sakes, if you're watching this and you haven't bought the book yet,
get the book.
If Amazon, they might be. Mike's got at least 3 or 4 extra copies on his desk right there.
Yeah, right there.
Home address. You can go by, pick them up whenever.
Yeah, come on by.
Those ones are expensive though. They're the $20,000 founders edition.
The founders edition, yeah. And you got to drink an old fashioned with me, or maybe a tequila gimlet. So,
or your choice. 30,000 is your choice.
Yeah, right. Your choice, and I'll make it.
Wow, that's a deal. We might have to market that. All right, hey Mike, I know you're in book writing mode. Thanks again so much for the time this week. We missed Amber. Amber's on vacation this week, and just a shout out to Amber Velhauer for being a co-host on the show and always bringing a ton of value. We'll see her hopefully back next week. So thanks so much. And we're out.
Have a great night. Take care, brother.